Hi there, Delilah here, and welcome to another episode of My Writing Journey, where I take a look back at all of my old writing and just have a good little nostalgic trip so that I can get to the core of why I started writing in the first place, why I love writing so much, and how I can improve my writing going forward. Like the last episode, how this is going to work is I'm going to answer a few background questions about who I was at the time and, what was going on in my life. Then I will read an excerpt, and then I will answer two final questions pertaining to what I thought of my writing at that time. So before we begin, I just wanted to comment that I will be jumping just a little bit ahead in my writing journey simply because the material that I put aside for my middle school years and very early high school years, including my poetry, is nowhere to be found. I don't know where it is. I'm hoping it's not thrown away because those are very, very precious things to me. But yeah, they're nowhere to be found, and I'm starting to believe they got thrown away. And like I said last time, should I find those materials, let's all pray that I do, I will go ahead and I will renumber all of the episodes and stick those in between. So let's get started with today's episode. Today I will be reading an excerpt from about the year 05-06, and so I'm just gonna get right into the questions. Question number 1. How old was I at this point? If this was 05-06, then I was 15 to 16 years old. Question number 2. What were some important themes at this time in my life? Important themes. That's kind of hard to go back and think on. I was just really focused on building really strong friendships, probably getting a boyfriend. I was very obsessed with that at the time. My life at this time was pretty much about being an anime nerd. My friendships were more or less based on who liked anime and how I could cling to them as close as possible. And I think that really influences the story here, not directly. The story is not about people who love anime. It's about a friendship that grows from two people who have a common interest. I really think that the anime and me finding friends and people who loved anime was what came together and influenced a lot of my stories at this time. Number 3, were there any specific highlights or obstacles that I was dealing with at the time? Well, at 15, there's always the core, I'm an adolescent, I don't know who I am, I want to fit in, I want to be somebody important one day. There was that. That was very important at the time. Specific highlights for me were basically finding friends that I had things in common with, like I said before, and obstacles for me would be a lot of identity issues. I was dealing with some very strong identity issues. I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know how to be who I wanted to be because I didn't know who I wanted to be at the time. I was coming off of bullying from middle school, and the message that I took from that was it's not okay to be me. And by the time I got to high school, I was thinking, but if I'm not me, who am I? So I had these two things butting heads. I didn't know who I was, but I wanted to be me, but it wasn't okay to be me. And so I had a really hard time with that, and I really had to do a lot of soul searching to come out of that. In fact, I will admit that this identity crisis issue lasted for a lot longer than high school years. But thank God it's over now. Question number 4. What did I think about writing at the time? Well, at this age, I had come through that whole, I only write because it's assigned to me thing. I realized that I could write because I wanted to, because it meant something when I wrote, and I could express myself. I could express all of my pain, all of my joy, all of my wonderful memories, all of my horrible memories. I could talk about the girl who's evil to me. I could talk about the boy I have a crush on. Anything and everything I could write about. And so by this time, 15, 16 years old, writing was a comfort to me. And I really wish I could go back to that time and really just savor it. I wrote whenever I could. While teachers were talking, when I was supposed to be doing my homework, I was writing. And it was just such a joy to me to write. I didn't want to be perfect. I was mostly just writing for myself because it felt good. Because I wanted to have adventures. And like I said earlier, it's not necessarily okay to be me. At least that's what I thought. I felt like it wasn't expected of me. It wasn't proper for me. It wasn't socially acceptable for me to have adventures. And so I would write so that I could have adventures. And as I'm sitting here talking about it, it's blowing my mind. Like, my heart is swelling thinking of all the wonderful times I had when I used to write in high school. And the last question before the excerpt is, what did I want to be when I grew up? Well, I know at the time that I wasn't writing to become a professional writer. It just wasn't in my head that I could become a professional writer at the time. I wrote because it was fun and I liked it, and I thought maybe one day in the far future when I'm 80 years old, somebody will find my old books and they'll publish them or something. Not for me to make money off of, but just for people to read them, So writing was definitely out. 15, 16, I was still really figuring myself out. Teaching started to become more of a reality for me at the time. So yeah, I had no aspirations to become a writer at this point either. Okay, now I'm going to read an excerpt from a story in 05-06. So I was about a sophomore in high school. It's 2 pages. Hopefully it won't be too long. It should be shorter than last time, but we'll see. So I'm just going to read it out, and if there's typos, I'm going to read the typos. Now, back to this Vincent fellow. No need to go into far detail about this one. On a need-to-know basis, he was a big guy, taller than most, wider than most. He was pretty confident in the fact that most people paid him no mind. Well, aside from the little pack he was a part of. He was a rather normal guy. He watched the television, blasted contraption. He played the games of video. He, like so many of the youth during that time, did the surfing of the net. He was just average, except for one thing. He was friends with a certain Camille Gentil. Only a select few truly knew this Camille. None of them are important in this part of the tale, but know that they will come up sooner or later. Seeing as how you are acquainted with the hero of the story, we shall let the plot unfold. But be careful. Sometimes you might find yourself sucked too far into the story, and that is a right that you have. But living the adventure and reading the adventure are 2 different things. I'll leave the decision of your fate up to you. Choose wisely. Luck and strength are in the adventure. Do you have them? The teacher's not here today, Vincent observed. Cool. Vincent and Camille entered their math class. The teacher, Miss Pell, was absent for the 2nd time that week due to the delivery of her baby. Presently, their substitute was not paying attention to the class and was absorbed in the teacher's computer. Meanwhile, no one was sitting in their assigned seat. Attendance hadn't been taken, and several students decided to walk out of class and roam the halls. Vincent thought this was a great idea and stood to go explore with the others, but one look at Camille and he sat back down in his seat. Come on, she's not watching us, he said. Camille shook her head and pulled out a book to read as Vincent twiddled his thumbs, bored. I'm gonna go, Camille. This is boring. Camille closed her book and looked at him in question. You'll only get in trouble as soon as you go out. I know it, she said. And, as if on cue, the principal walked into the classroom with the rebel students in tow, anger on his face. The said students sat back in their seats with satisfied smirks on their faces. Camille chuckled. Well, that would be the end of that sub. That was close, Camille. Psychic much? Vincent asked. Nope. Lucky, she replied. And I'm gonna stop there, and I wish I could read more. I'm really excited because that is an adventure story that I haven't read until now. Like, I haven't read it since pretty much I wrote it, and I haven't thought about it until now. And I remember what I was gonna do with it, and I'm really sad that I never worked on it because this is some good stuff. And now for the final questions. Question number 6 is, what did I like about my writing then? Oh my goodness, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but what did I like about it? I liked a lot about it. I just get really excited because I don't really write like that anymore, and I just want to recapture it. It's so, it feels so good. But specific things that I can point out, I really like the tone of the narrator in this. It's kind of, it's really playful and really like snarky but playful in the same way. You can tell that I thought that the narrator was gonna have an important part in the story. Like, there was a sentence in here. He was a rather normal guy. He watched television, parentheses, blasted contraption. He played the games of video. He, like so many of the youth during the time, did the surfing of the net. Like, I do not write like that anymore. It's really fun to go back and read things like this. I was really, really playful with my writing, and I really enjoy reading that. And last question, number 7, is what improvements could I have made at the time? Well, on a technical level, I noticed while reading, and it tripped me up a little bit, there's shifting verbs. And I know when we're talking about creative writing, you kind of want to leave the technical to the technical, but I did notice that, and I'm glad that I did pick that up, because with writing exams coming up and just influencing my own writing, it's good that I notice how I was writing at the time. And so, yeah, verb tense shifting was a little bit of a problem. There was confusion between words. I know that I spelled principal incorrectly. Every single time I wrote principal, it was written incorrectly. Principal as in, you know, your principles, like your priorities or your code, versus principal, like the principal of the school. So glad I noticed that. Creatively, I think I did a really good job on setting up, because this is setting up the story, so there isn't a whole lot to go off of, but yeah, creatively, I think I did a pretty good job. If anything, I would say there were parts that seemed a little bit unrealistic, like the substitute teacher just kind of sitting and letting kids walk off and walk around. That's not very realistic, but you know, it's nitpicky. I'm genuinely surprised and proud of this piece of work that I did so long ago that I haven't looked at until now. Oh, another thing that I think I could have improved on was finishing my stuff, because that story is about 3 or 4 chapters and it ends there on a cliffhanger. So sad. So that's it for this episode of my writing journey. I apologize if I scared you with my excitement for that, but I didn't even realize. Guys. That's all I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode and look forward to another one coming up soon. If there is anything that you thought of that excerpt or of this experiment thing, go ahead and leave me a comment below. If you have looked back over any of your old stuff in the past couple weeks, couple months, let me know how your experience went. I'll catch you in the comment section below. And keep an eye out for my next video, and I will see you next time. Bye!